Anyway, you want me to finish my my rap on the FCC? Does anybody care what's going on with the FCC?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, it affects our futures. It affects all of America. So, the FCC comes out the other day and drops its case against a Chicago radio station out of the clear blue.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they found them indecent, because I think they said duty or something. You know, we are the most childish nation in the world. Bono, you said the F word, you would have thought that all hell broke loose. We're infantile. We're a bunch of infants.
It amazes me that people really do. They run to their phones and they make phone calls.
There's 100 or so idiots that actually called CBS to express concern that Bono, a rock star, with a cigarillo coming out of his mouth. You would have thought Pearl Harbor happened. The guy used the F word. All right, listen, he's a big dope. You know, no reason for him to use the F word, but okay, he used it. There were grown people calling CBS. First of all, what's CBS going to do about it? It's a live show, you nitwits. I mean, there are people who are so... they're such prudes. They're so base. They can't handle hearing the F word. There isn't a 3-year-old on the planet. My kids were 3, they knew the F word. And where'd they hear it? From me yelling at my wife. Telling her to go F herself. And there isn't I don't think there's a 3-year-old on this planet that doesn't know the F word.
Believe me, those adults had heard the F word before and have used it.
Yeah. I mean, we are a nation of children. We're the most uptight nation. I mean, somebody said the F word, so who cares?
It just would never occur to me to get up and call somebody.
I mean, come on.
I would love to meet those people.
Yeah, you got to be nuts. CBS is issuing apologies. The guy, who cares?
What's
You use the F word. Apologize. They're like imbeciles. Oh my God, the F word. I better call someone. Maybe they don't know.
Oops, was I the only one who heard?
And you can only imagine who's taking these phone calls. Imagine who they're complaining to. You don't think the president of CBS is picking up the phone. It's some operator.
What the F you want?
Hello? Who is there?
I want to voice a complaint. And it's probably some prude. I want to voice a complaint.
Well, go ahead.
It's some old black woman answering the phone. You know, that's what you can get to answer.
Who would like to use the F word on them for bothering?
Yeah, who's going to be at CBS, your local station, answering phones at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah, what's your complaint? Hold the F on for a second.
That operator's busy cursing her miserable life out between calls.
I can't stand my miserable effing life.
No one's ever heard this word before. But anyway, so the FCC drops its ridiculous, stupid case in Chicago against some guy who said duty. And now the lawyer, they said, well, what are you going to do about your case against Howard Stern? He goes, we may not have wanted to take those Chicago guys to court, but we're sure as hell going to take Infinity to court. That's the company we work for. Infinity currently faces $1.6 million in Howard Stern-related fines. Good. So, in other words, what sense that makes, I don't know. Did those guys do anything? In other words, those guys were indecent, but now they're not indecent. But how do they justify? How can you win your case? This is mind-blowing.
We just didn't want to take them to court?
Yeah, that was the answer. We didn't want to take them to court anymore. They'd spent millions of dollars in taxpayers' money taking these guys to court, and then they dropped the case. They wasted your money. Do you know there are people right now taking welfare funds, not only from New York, but from New Jersey as well? It's in the newspaper today.
Yes.
They're committing fraud. There's nobody in the government investigating any of this, where the welfare money's going. All of our hard-earned tax dollars are going out the window, and this is what they're spending money on. Taking these Chicago broadcasters to court and then dropping the case. Well, why'd you take them to court in the first place? And what are you taking me to court for and wasting millions of dollars in a case you're going to lose?
Once again, Congress has struck as well. I understand now they're going to start looking into video games.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we need. Because you know what? That's going to help all of us. You know, and it's so funny. I'm reading New York Magazine. It's got the story of a black guy jumped into some white kid's Jeep and blew the kid's brains out up in Rockland County. I don't know if you read about it.
I knew about the story when it happened, and I know about the New York Magazine article.
And believe me, if it had been the reverse, a white guy jumping into a black guy's Jeep and blowing his brains out, you would have had Rodney King proportion rioting going on.
Work would have come to a standstill.
Work would have come to a standstill. There would have been a major investigation by the governor.
Been called in.
Oh, everyone would have been called in. But meanwhile, there's this kid, a great kid. If you read about him, he was a fabulous kid. He is now snuffed out. And there is a lot of criminal activity in the black community. I saw it coming on when I was about 12 years old. I lived in an all-black community. There was a lot of anger and resentment in the community, a lot of shenanigans going on, a lot of parents not taking responsibilities for their kids. It was a nightmare. And there is an inordinate amount of crime going on in the black community. And it's now seeping into white America. And white America is panicking. They don't know what to do. They're also politically correct. They can't address the situation as it is. So now what they do is they call on Reverend Donald Wildman and Terry Racolta to clean up television because things are out of control.
And Congress is jumping on the bandwagon.
Instead of the one guy who finally said something was Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who got up and said, there's a problem in the black family. Well, this guy was called a racist. This is one of the most liberal senators in the country. He was called a racist for saying this. So he kept his mouth shut. He backed off because, look, the guy must like working in the Senate or something. He wants to be reelected. He backed off. So what all this is, it's white America freaking out because finally the black community now is not only killing itself, it's now seeping into the white man's land. But everyone's afraid to talk about it. Everyone's afraid to talk about what's going on. So they want to blame television. You can't drag drug lords and bad parents before Senate committees, so you now drag video game operators. This is all a bunch of phony baloney garbage. I know exactly what's going on. You think that the black community is out of control from this radio show?
They don't even listen.
They don't even listen. I'm trying to get them to listen. I'm trying to do more black things. I had Black Jeopardy the other day. I'd love to have a few black listeners. Can't get them.
They don't get up this time of the morning.
But this is the nonsense. You see these people on TV, oh, my God, things are out of control. Things are out of control. Things are no more out of control. It's just that you're going to have to deal with this, that the black man right now is very violent. If you see a community that is in disarray, that has been allowed to have children running the streets wild, where grandparents raise the children if we're lucky, there is a big problem. And even the most responsible black leaders recognize it. They're trying to do something about it. It's not easy. They don't know what to do either. Well,
they've only recently thought to do something about it. It's in the last 10 minutes in terms of history.
Right.
It's been going on for quite some time.
And believe me, it would keep going on, except that now Whitey is starting to get snuffed out by the black man.
But I'm talking about these black leaders who would never say anything.
Right.
Every time, a white person comes into a situation where a black person gets hurt, they're right there with the protest.
Right.
Black people have been killing black people for quite some time in very heinous ways.
Right.
They don't say anything at all.
So it's an out-of-control community. And, look, this is why you see the government going after me. This is why you now turn on your TV and you see they're complaining about violence on television. There's no more violence on television than what you had growing up with Maverick and Gunsmoke. Normal people who are raised in something of a proper environment watch these shows and they're entertained by them. That's all.
You saw the movie Menace to Society. That is no fantasy. There are children growing up in situations like that.
Listen, when I kid around sometimes about growing up in Roosevelt, but when I was growing up in this black community, I saw what was going on. There was a lot of nonsense. There was no education going on in the schools. There couldn't be. It wasn't the teacher's fault. These schools were fine. The kids were so out of control.
Yeah, you have to teach kids to sit.
You could not teach a kid how to sit. If you told a kid to please sit in his seat, if the parents were around, they would start screaming at the white teachers because, you racist, you telling my kid to sit down. My kid will sit wherever he damn please. I saw it with my own eyes. I knew it, and I said, boy, I can't wait for the day. I can't wait to see when these kids turn into adults. Man, it's going to be a whole new world. And I saw the thing going down. I saw it when I was a kid. It was a generation gap, too. Because you would see, like, a lot of older black guys who would sit there and go, my God, these kids are out of control. And they would be screaming about it. No one was listening. And you saw this sort of bunch of wild young kids growing up on the streets. And they were angry, and they were pissed off. They didn't have any education, and you knew they'd have no future. And I said, man, I saw it coming. And, it used to drive me nuts. I'd say, man, this rage that is being directed at me, since I happen to be the only white guy, I said, wait till this rage is directed on the rest of white America.
Wait till they get cars.
I said, yeah, wait till these kids get cars. And I guess America was thinking, well, it'll be like Africa. They'll ride around on elephants. They'll never get their own cars.
They'll never be able to get to us.
Right. They'll never be able to get to us. I don't know what white America was thinking, but they were hoping that, listen, everyone would just stay in the black community and kill each other. Well, it hasn't happened, and there isn't one politician brave enough to talk about it because he's afraid he's going to be branded a racist. And really, that's not racist. It's fact. And who even knows if there is a way to address it? There's no way to address it. People have to raise their own kids. The only real way to address it is to start sterilizing people.
Well, New York is a major duty responsible. They created this whole system
Mayor Lindsay.
where they said, you know what? We have to preserve the family.
Yeah, so we'll pay people to stay home. We'll pay people for kids.
Not only that. You have a whole system where, you see the kids in these horrible situations where the mother's on crack and nobody's at home and the whole thing. They take the kids out for a day and then they take them back. Yeah. And they send them right back into those horrible situations.
Because there's no way. I mean, society we cannot be parents. Government cannot be parents. We don't know what to do with these kids. Nobody wants them. In many cases, it's just nowhere to put them.
Well, you're just delaying the
inevitable.
You're basically farming your own criminals.
So knowing all of this that you know, and you see the problem that exists, what is the FCC's answer? We're going to fine Howard Stern $1.6 million. Can you imagine this is what the government is up to? This is what your government is up to. We got a problem on our hands that is going to get worse and worse. And the government has decided that violence on television is the problem and the cause. And it's a big phony baloney issue. Why does government say that it's violence on television? Because you can't get a mother on crack to stand before the Senate. And you can't make sense with her. So you get a responsible guy, a broadcasting guy in a suit. He'll meet with you and he'll bow to you. And you'll be all over the TV news and you'll look like you're doing something to your constituents. Don't be fooled by this nonsense. The FCC is your enemy. They're making you think that the problem is radio and TV. They are the enemy of the people. They are the enemy. Make no mistake about it. They're trying to cloud your mind. They're trying to make you think they're doing something. They're doing nothing. They're phonies. They're phonies just like everyone else. They're hypocrites. They're the same phonies I saw in Roosevelt when I was growing up, who would sit there and go, the black man is our brother, the black man. Shut up. Then why don't you live with the black man if the black man's your brother? Why don't you do something like I'm doing, like sitting here with my family, get my head beat in? You want to do something? They're phonies. There are 5 phonies sitting there. Don't be fooled. And don't be fooled by these idiot congressmen either. And that jackass who sits there, that dumb senator. What's that guy's name? Jesse Helms?
From North Carolina?
That friggin' freak. Don't be fooled by him either. Well, I'm for protecting children and Howard Stern is the enemy. Yeah, let me ask you something. If you're for protecting children, how come you don't go after the tobacco industry that seduces children to smoke and get cancer and ruin their health? You know why, you big phony? Why, Robin? Answer
because he's beholden to those people for his job.
That's right. Where is he speaking out about that if he's so worried about children? Don't be a hypocrite. Don't hand me bull. Because you heard me talk about penis. 50 penises are safer than 50 cigarettes, you phony old man.
Penis never hurt anybody, but it has.
Oh, believe me. You come over here, it'll hurt you. Well, you look today all fucked up. Who do you think you are? Well, at least smoking penis would be safer than smoking a cigarette. How's that? All right?
You're right about
that. Okay. So I continue to be the brunt of the government's problem with society, and this weighs heavily on this company because they have to keep paying more and more attorneys, and I apologize for it. But I am growing weary of the fight. And I must tell you that my brothers in broadcasting have all turned their backs on me. And the newspapers and anyone who's supposed to be for free speech, there's a couple. USA Today did a editorial saying, stop the harassment of Howard Stern. I'll give them a pat on the back. But, of course, right underneath it, they had to allow the Reverend Donald Wildman to give his opposing view. I never see an opposing view in USA Today of their editorials. Yeah. But in my case, they have to give this hillbilly from out of town his view. And why
don't you start calling yourself Reverend? Then you can be an expert on something.
Yeah. Well, I'm considered an expert on nothing. I also should thank Lee Kessler, who wrote a column for in Washington, the press has abandoned Howard Stern. And also, there's a guy named Nicholas Lehman who wrote a pretty good article saying, let him speak already. What are we afraid of? But other than that, I haven't read too much from journalists who should be outraged about my problems with the FCC. Just haven't read it. It's all baloney anyway.
But once again, it's the sadness you feel because now we are basically running the country. People in our age group are running the country, and people in our age group are causing us problems.
People in our age group are the same people who fled the problems in Roosevelt. All the whiteys, I saw them all flee. Black skin.
Well, they were kids then.
Yeah, well,
their parents
they were raised by people who fled.
But they've grown up to be just like them.
Right. All the people, all the liberals now, I'll tell you, the problem is TV. It's not TV. They're all too much of a pussy to tell you how they fled the black communities. And they are afraid of the black man, and the black man has come home to rule them. You can't even walk out on the streets at night. Get with it. I live in a city where I cannot take the subway at night, and you're going to tell me the biggest problem is Howard Stern saying penis? These phony balonies. They should take those 5 FCC guys, stick them on a subway, and say, listen, you got some government power. Why don't you do something for somebody? Sit there with a gun and blow someone's brains out at least when they're being raped or attacked on the subway. It's a lark. It's a joke. I read about this FCC. You want to puke. And you got these puppet heads who run these newspapers who can't even speak out about it. Should be an outrage in this country. And not just because it's me, just because it's anybody. And listen. You're not going to tell me this show isn't popular. We're number 1 everywhere. There are people who enjoy it. Listen to this. You talk about who listens to this show. Let's find out who listens to this show. There's a group called Jericho Promotions. And what their job is, they do surveys. They try to figure out what businessmen have on their minds. Mm-hmm. And they survey the top businessmen, the top wage earners in this country, the people, the titans of industry. All right? They try to find out what is their favorite music, what are their favorite movies, what products do they buy, what sports do they watch. They want to know this because these are valuable, these are people who have purchasing power.
That's right.
So what's on their minds? Well, they say that, this is a long list. 38% of the executives said that they had a bad story about the company that they worked for. 69% of them said that the company actually benefited from a negative story that the press did about theirs. It's a whole long laundry list of things that happen in their life and personal stuff and all kinds of things. In fact, they even said to them, if your company was about to be portrayed by the media, who would you want to do the story? And 41% picked Peter Jennings as the most credible television news person they would like to, be interviewed. They said that Geraldo was the least credible. They said that 41% said that the show they would most like to be interviewed on was PBS's Charlie Rose show, and 60 Minutes was the second choice. And then they said, what is your favorite program to listen to? 32% said the Howard Stern Show.
Wow.
It was the most... Rush Limbaugh wasn't up there. Larry King wasn't up there. No one else. Howard Stern. So who do you think's listening to this show? Nitwits?
Well, they're listening too.
All right, those are the ones that call. Don't get fooled by that. All right, so nitwits call. But the ones that don't call are businessmen,
That's
Robin.
right. They're working, but they're listening.
I'm going to shut up. I'm sick of hearing myself talk. I'm going to take some phone calls next. I'll be back right after these words.
We're back with